And of course, today we've got Andrew with us, as usual.
I'm here.
And we have got our special guest, Colin. Now,
Evening.
Colin actually specialises in trance mediumship, which of course is very different and very interesting. And how have you all been before we get into it? Been good,
Yeah,
Andrew?
not too bad. We're still in lockdown at the moment, so everyone's in lockdown, aren't they? So it's just another day of fun doing pretty much nothing.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, well, I'm still working, so I'm fortunate, so I get out a lot. So, yeah, I'm all right with that. I'd rather be working than locked up.
Yeah. Oh no, it is. I mean, I'd be doing the same if I could help it because it is pretty hardcore being indoors all the time. But it's got to be done. It's the right thing to do considering the circumstances. But yeah, it's all good. Over to you, James. It's in the middle there.
Yes, I was going to say, for those of people that's watching, hello to Corinne. I was going to say, Colin, what could you tell us about trance mediumship? What is it all about?
Where to start? Well, if I start at the beginning, and if I'm waffling, then just interrupt and shift me on.
Colin.
So, what are you asking exactly? Are you asking the mechanics, the science of it, or what actually is occurring? What's the purpose of it?
I guess, yeah, what's occurring and what is the purpose behind it? Because I'm guessing some of the people at home that may be watching may not know anything about trance mediumship at all.
Right. So, trance mediumship is another form of communication between us mortals and the world of spirit. Like you get your mediums, it's in the same vein. It's a tool for communication. But for me, the good thing about trance mediumship is that you actually get to see, hear more of the individual that's connecting with myself in the moment, of their personality, their knowledge base, and to a degree, in the right settings, the right light, etc., you can see more of the physical aspects of the physical appearance. I find for me that trance mediumship enhances mental mediumship. Absolutely. Ever since I started developing some 25 years ago now, blimey, I feel old now, 25 years ago, that my mediumship, especially in the last couple of years, because moving into the realms of trance mediumship, the learning, the what's the word I'm looking for? Developing the trance mediumship. It's not a short process. It's really not. I guess some people it's shorter than others. We all develop at different rates, but to get it to a standard where I feel to be able to publicly show it and be confident within yourself as well, because if you're not comfortable and confident that you feel that you're producing a pure aspect of it, then your own mind will destroy what you're trying to do anyway, because the whole process involves you switching your conscious mind off to the greatest degree that you can within your own training and development, etc., of that. So you need to be confident that you feel and others feel that you've reached a point where to publicly demonstrate you to that level, that point. What else? you want to pin me down on something? Do you want
So, for yourself, Colin, I mean, how did you get involved in it? Because you said before that it's a case of developing and that, you know, it takes a long time for that development. So for
yeah.
yourself, what got you interested in it? What, you know, how did you get involved?
Well, it's that old thing. You, in my own mind, in my developing years, not necessarily for the trance, before that, being pulled into spiritualism because on my mum's side of the family, we go up 3 generations, all on the ladies'
Oh,
side.
okay.
My mum, my nan, my gran, my great gran were all mediums. And my mum still is, she's still here. And so being brought up in that environment, even though in my younger years, I wasn't even bothered about any aspect of it at all. But later on, life happens, big
Yeah.
occurrence, life changing things happen. And suddenly, through no intention of my own, but I just, got pulled into it one way or another. And traveling around the different churches to see different mediums, etc., etc., and started to develop my mental mediumship and my philosophy because I was a huge fan of listening to people that had the spiritual philosophy, and some of them are absolutely fantastic to listen to. And so that was a big thing of mine. And then one day I found myself down in a local church in Portsmouth at Vivash,
I remember that one. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, Portsmouth Progressive, and I was doing my little bit there. I think it was on one of those Thursday afternoon guilds, and I did my bit. And sat in the audience was a fella who introduced himself to me afterwards, who you two boys know very, very well. And it was a fella called Andrew Grant. And this is
Really, I do.
many years ago. It's well over 20 years ago. Well, it's 25. I was saying to you, it's 25 years on my development. And so Andrew afterwards came upstairs. We had a bit of cake and a cup of tea and nattering about this, that, and the other. And he mentioned that in that church they ran a trance group. And I said, "Oh well, I'm interested into all the physical phenomena and all of that aspect." So the lady, I forget her name, bless her, moved to Wales, who was in charge of the church, invited me to come and sit. So that day we were up there, one and in the dark with the red light and all of that lot in the
Yeah, yeah,
cabinet,
yeah.
sat in the cabinet, and the lady, who was an elderly lady, was very well schooled, very knowledgeable, was one of these, just knew her stuff, no messing, no airy fairy, this or that, spoke as it was. And she said to me, she said, "You have the energy there to develop that." And so afterwards, I chatted with Andrew, and Andrew and I got on, and we're like brothers now. I mean, he's been my best mate since the day I met him. And he was already a developed, practicing, demonstrating trance medium. And
Yes, it really
and
is.
he used to come round, and we used to sit. I used to sit with Andy. I used to sit on my own, and I just sit. And it was Andrew that really pushed me hard into it and helped me with my development. And then he went off and did some of his own stuff. He moved to America, got married, and I carried on sitting and then sat in several other little small groups. And it just came on. And I would say that in those 25 years, to be honest, it's only truly the last, I would say, although I've been demonstrating probably for 10, 12 years, it is only the last 3 to 4 years that I myself am comfortable where I can relax now and just sit and and I'm
Yeah.
to a level now where my confidence is at its best at the minute.
Because I think I met you back in, I don't know, because I met Andy Grant back in, I think, 2003. And I've worked with loads of mediums over the years, but not a trance medium. So when I worked with him, we went to an abbey in Southampton and we did a ghost hunt. And he started doing, the whole Samuel thing. I was like, whoa, this is incredible. And I think
Yeah,
I met you shortly after that back in the church as well, long, long time ago. And my mind was blown a little bit because to see people, like Andy Grant yourself, actually having someone come through and communicate as such, you kind of think, how does
yeah,
that happen? What's going on there? Because it's,
yeah,
it's when he does it, the information he comes out with is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Like it's
Well,
really tries. It's hard to understand when you don't go through it yourself.
yeah, okay. So I'll try and explain a little, as much as I can. So um, it's a feeling like no other when you know you're properly connected. And for those people that are watching that have no idea really what we're talking about, it's something I think, even if not necessarily me, but go and witness it, even with someone else. I would
Yeah,
always,
yeah,
the only thing with that is the same in any field. Try and go and see someone that is recommended by those in the know, because it like any other field, you know that there's this and there's that and there's, you know what I mean. But so be choosy, and go and see a few of them and compare your experiences. Um, is the thing I always do. I still love going and watching other people do it. And so, to try and explain simply to the public that are watching, as simply as I can, obviously, I have to totally believe that there is such a thing as life after death.
yeah, yeah,
Otherwise,
completely.
it's a pointless exercise beyond that if you don't. And so, those people, your family, whoever that have passed on, retain their knowledge, retain their personality. They're the same people. It's the physical body that's disappeared, but the true essence of who we are, that energy within each of us, lives on, carries that personality, carries that knowledge, and continues to exist.
Yeah,
Now, around each and every one of us, we have this energy body, which in the right circumstances could be seen and measured, scientifically and proven, called the etheric body. And in that body is your mental energy, your emotional, your spiritual, your physical well being is recorded in that. You can read all of
yeah,
that with that etheric body. And so, in that same body, so when this spirit wants to connect in the trance way, um, it puts its energy in this auric etheric field and communicates with you, because I spoke to you earlier about you can see, you can hear the personality shows, the
yeah,
knowledge
yeah,
of the individual shows, and aspects. So obviously not the full thing, but a good portion depending on where you're connected. So for example, say there was this energy that wanted to use my mind to express themselves. If in life they'd have had some disfigurement somewhere, I don't know, like arthritis
yeah.
or anything,
You
if
would
it
feel
could
that
be
as well with your.
if it could be
Yeah,
shown in the physical body, they will show it through myself, through one
that's just
way
amazing.
or
Man.
another. The chap that I connect with currently, because you go through stages of different communicators, chap
Yeah,
called Samuel, who actually Samuel was, or could still be and still does, connect with my best mate Andy. So we're sharing, if you like, this personality, Samuel,
yeah.
that's
Oh
gone.
wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And in that, Samuel has a habit of profuse dribbling. So
That sounds
I have
lovely.
to make, yeah, seriously, seriously. So when I'm sat and I'm doing that, I have to have a wad of tissues, because
Oh
it's like a
no.
foaming at the mouth and dribbling. So I'm forever aware that I have to keep tapping my mouth with the tissue just to stop myself from dribbling and spitting over every bugger. So that's
Sounds
an
quite attractive right now.
but yeah, so that's one aspect of something that shows from from a spiritual being through a physical being, things that you can expect to see, you know. Um, when the trance session, if you like, is in full swing, the medium, myself included, there should be no real gaps. So if you were to ask me a question, I should be able to quickly come out with an explanation or an opinion of the spirit, the knowledge base of Samuel, for example. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to be sat there too long waiting for the ums and the ahs and the gaps and all that, because then that for me shows too much of your own physical mind being involved in the response. Whereupon the spirit instantly know what they've got to say, and it should flow and flow, you know?
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's astounding, isn't it? We've got a few nice comments for you on the online right here. We should say hello to Corinne, who's joining us. Rose says hello, Colin, as well. Rose Arnold, maybe someone I guess you know.
I know, Rose, good friend of mine.
James,
Hello.
hello. James Edwards has said that would like to go to Spiritist Church, but not sure of one in Winchester, where Rose has kind of helped us with that. There is one in Winchester. Those people came on our ghost tour a couple of years ago, in fact.
I've been there. It's a little hut in the car park, isn't it? It's a scout hut.
I don't know. Yeah, well, it could be. Yeah, could be. I know. I've never been to it. I just know they came to our ghost tour in Winchester a few years ago. And
There used
Gemma
to be
and
two.
Gemma Waller and Cheryl Moore saying hello this evening as well. So, and Leslie too, and Philip. So loads of people watching online right now. So feel free to ask questions if you have any.
Yeah.
James, it's you again. If you got any lovely questions for Colin, he can't see me, but he can see you.
Yes, of course. Anyone that's watching at home, if you do have questions about trance mediumship, please put them in the comments box. So we'd love to hear them. Something I was thinking about, Colin. I know I've seen you do trance and I've seen you do mediumship. I was just thinking away as you was talking. Do you ever get a moment where, say, if you're doing mediumship on stage, you get an urge where you want to go into trance? And the only
Right.
reason I'm saying that, I know sometimes when I'm doing mediumship, or even if I'm doing a talk or whatever, I get a sense and it's almost like, yeah, I want to do this as well. I just wondered if that's the same.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, when you're on the platform doing solely mediumship, you kind of got to keep focused on that. But I will say that several times. So, for example, where it comes in handy, the trance mediumship. So,
Yeah.
speaking from memory from certain events in a church, doing a mediumship demonstration, and then suddenly, as I'm talking to the recipient in the audience, one of them here and there, I feel this energy and I think, oh, hello, I know what this is. And it's not like it moves into total trance, but because if you've developed in trance mediumship, it gives the opportunity to whatever spirit person is connecting with you to press in a bit closer and make the information purer so that it kind of bypasses my mind, because
Okay, yeah.
everybody knows that it's our mind that pulls apart the message. You know, it's not the spirit, it's our interpretation and interfering. So it's very handy. And I can remember several occasions where once this energy comes in, if it does on a night, you know that whoever I'm talking to in the audience needs something to be explained to them in a very specific and pure manner. So, James, if I was talking to you in the church and suddenly felt this energy creeping on me, I'd know what was coming, I'd know what it was for, and I would just relax myself that little bit more and just let that. So, my speech might alter to a point, not completely, but I get so extremely focused in that 1 or 2 minutes because I might have started that message off in a perfectly natural mediumistic manner, but this energy has only just crept in for a minute or two, just as long as it takes to give out whatever it is, this portion of information or what I've got to say to the individual, so it's at its purest, because they need to receive it in the proper way without me pulling it apart. It needs to be given exactly. Once that excerpt of information or whatever it was has been handed over and the recipient takes it, the energy pulls back and then you revert back to your mental mediumship. But in that aspect, in that way, it's great. And when I feel that coming on, I straight away in my head, I think, oh, this person needs something that I on my own can't give.
Okay.
But I guess in this field, I mean, the thing as well is when you're giving messages as well, and you're doing this, and James, you can vouch for this as well, I'm sure, is how you deal with the people that are very critical of it. Because going back to something Colin mentioned earlier, it's really important that if you do go out and you go and see anybody do, trance mediumship, you get good recommendations, because there are people out there who are doing the wrong thing. And equally, as you guys both know as mediums, you're going to get people as well that go, I think that you're talking rubbish, they don't believe you, or whatever the case may be. How do you go about that? Because that's quite a hard thing to kind of react to, isn't it?
Well, listen, when you've been in this game for time, you've already got used to it, mate, because it's no different to any other thing. There's always people, for whatever reason, whether they're just not going to believe in it, and that's their issue, not mine, and you just have to take it all on the chin. Jealousies, some people simply dislike. There's a multiple of reasons that you come face to face with in everyday life. People don't like you, they're jealous of you, there's this, there's that, there's this. And it's the same in this movement. It's no different. And I don't have to force or push my beliefs onto anybody. And if they walk out that door, if one person in that room walks out of that door interested or intrigued or even pushed in a direction where they want to find out more about things on a spiritual level, then that's enough.
And you've got to be open to this, haven't you? If you're going to go to a spiritual church, you're going to go and see a medium. I don't know that people probably go along with their friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, but you need to be open to it, because we know there's something out there that we don't understand. Yeah. We know that, you're getting these messages through. And, I've been to spiritual churches many times like yourself, and some of the mediums there are absolutely fantastic. Whilst other ones I've been thinking, not quite so sure about it, but I'm an open person. I think that, also an element of doubt to start with. But, yeah, when they come up to you and say things, I just think, where do you get that information from? For me, I mean, how could you know that information? You're giving me stuff that's right, but where have you got it from? And I think if people are at least a little bit open to it, they're going to get more out of the experience.
Yeah. There's nothing.
I was just going to say, Colin, we have got a few questions now.
Yeah, carry on.
I know you did cover in this earlier, but briefly, Cheryl has actually asked, how did you get into doing trance mediumship?
Well, yeah, I did. We covered this at the beginning, so briefly and quickly. I was raised in a family of spiritualists, but it wasn't until midlife that I got pulled into it. And my interest, because stuff happened to me when I was a kiddie, growing up, and I never ever, even though my mum and all that was into it, I didn't know as a child that she was a spiritualist, until later on in life. So I never ever went to my mum and said, "Mum, this happened in my bedroom," or "This happened in my sleep." I quite often used to find myself looking through my bedroom window from the outside, looking in to my body in the bed.
Oh, God.
And I remember one night looking at myself in my bed from outside the window and trying to tap on it to wake my brothers up to let me in the window, but I was already asleep in the bed. So lots of occurrences of this, that, and the other growing up, and some scary stuff as well, but wouldn't have been scary now because I have an understanding. But at the time, when you're a kid, it's frightening. It's frightening. I literally felt people sitting on my bed, and I felt the pressure on my feet, or I would feel them come right up to my face as I was lying down in my bed, and I couldn't see them, but I knew without a doubt someone was stood there in front of me. I could feel the energy, the presence, and everything.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
We've got another question from Philip. Hello, Philip.
Hello.
He said, with trance mediumship, can you pick up a certain family member for someone? So if someone came and saw you, could you bring that family member through?
That's a good question.
Right. So there's a thing. You can't order them. You can't order them. You can't say, I want to speak to my dad. You could try it and you might be lucky and it comes. Now, going back a little while ago, in Southampton, a friend of mine had a business doing waxing, hair wax removal, all of that.
Nice.
And she said to me, Colin, I've got an empty room upstairs. If you ever fancy doing any readings, let me know and you can do some up there. She said, meanwhile, I'll ask around and I can book some through here and I'll let you know if there's any. And so she phoned me one day and she said, Colin, I've got this lady and gentleman who want a reading. The lady was a total believer. The husband was a total disbeliever. Complete opposites. So I go down, go in the building, meet them, and I was dreading it simply because the fella's a total non-believer. So I said, right, who's first? And the wife said, you go first. And I thought, oh my God, here we go. Not even chance to warm up or anything. So we go upstairs to an empty room, just 2 chairs and a glass of water each. And so I start giving the reading to the fella. And like I said to you earlier about being on the platform and feeling that energy, all of a sudden, and this bloke has stood there looking at me as if to say, come on then, let's see what you got, see what comes out of your mouth. And I just tried to stay as focused as I could on what I was giving. Within 2-3 minutes of us being sat in the chair, I felt this stronger trance energy start to build up, and I feel this physical presence impinging on me closer and closer. And then I'm looking in the eyes of the fella sat in front of me and start giving him this information. And as I'm looking at him, his eyes start to widen and his expression changes and his mouth drops open and he's like just a gasp looking at me. And then the next thing, I saw tears rolling down his face. I tried not to get too involved in what I was seeing with him. Kept the energy going, and then the energy moved off, and then we were back to the normal state. And I said to him, "Are you all right?" And it took him 2, 3, 4 minutes to compose himself, and he said, "My dad just spoke to me." And he saw enough of the physical, enough of the knowledge. He heard enough knowledge,
brilliant, isn't it?
and the information. And it took me by surprise because that was the last thing. And that was probably actually the first time I ever experienced what we were talking about, where the spirit comes in.
You know what, but what I find intriguing about that as well is that we get this all the time, particularly on the ghost hunts. We get people coming on and go, I don't believe in any of this, ghosts don't exist, ruddy. And I always do this thing in the beginning saying, put your hands up for those of you who believe, majority of you put the hands up, those who are in the middle, some put the hands up, and the ones who don't believe, 1 or 2 might put the hand up. And what's weird about that is that I can guarantee you on probably most ghost hunts, one of the people who put their hands up and say they don't believe will come back to me in the first break and say they've seen a ghost.
Yeah.
I normally go, but how have you seen a ghost? Because you don't believe. I think sometimes people don't want to admit to it, do they? They kind of almost know they do believe in it, or they're at least a little bit open, but it's like a bit of a pride thing to say, actually, do you know what? I think ghosts may exist, or these spirits may exist. Alexandra's asked a really good question as well here. So she says so Alexandra's dragging my heels on connecting to trance. I channel through conversation, but only of trance once when my consciousness is in the background. do you have any daily tips that can help me stop resisting my path into trance? Yeah, that's quite a long question, that one. Good question.
Yeah, good question. And at the beginning of your journey, it's something for me that every trance medium has gone through. And basically, all it is, I can remember Andy saying to me, because I was always reluctant, even though the energy was all over me, I was reluctant to open my mouth because what was coming out, I was thinking to myself, this is me. This is nothing to do with this bit. This is me making it up. It's my mind doing it.
Oh, you started down yourself a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you just have to keep sitting. Sit. It's not one of those things you want to rush, because the end result will be different. If you rush it and force it and push it, you'll be molding your own idea of what it is, as opposed to allowing the spirit to present itself in its own natural way. So it's always good if you've got someone with some knowledge in your circle of friends on that level that can give you not necessarily criticism, but some constructive idea of what they've seen and what they've heard, because honestly, it takes a huge amount of confidence to get to that point where you can trust
I can imagine.
So relax with it. Don't gauge yourself. Don't measure anything. Just offer yourself for X amount of time, a day, a week, or whatever, but sit regularly. The more you sit, the more you'll be building your energy, and the spirit will decide what's best for you. Once you've opened yourself up in that energy to sit for it, you don't need someone schooling you so much for this, and this. I spent a lot of years just sitting simply in what was a meditation group, as far as I knew. I wasn't looking to be a medium or a trance medium, and none of it ever, seriously, never entertained the thought. Sat in a meditation group for 6 years with the same people, simply because I loved the peace and quiet, and it was great. And when I look back, those 6 years just sat in the meditation group, the spirit did all the building within me that I needed to do what I do now. And I didn't even blim look for it.
You know what? Confidence is a big thing, isn't it? It is, because you can do, you've got the ability to do the mediumship stuff, but actually it's confidence as well. And I know that anybody who knows me from my days at school, when I was at school, I don't think I spoke to anything. I think I said anything. I think I went unnoticed most of the time because I was that quiet that I think they forgot I was there. And as soon as I walk past people now, I went to school, they haven't got a clue who I am because they forgot about me. Because that's how quiet I was. But then I got to a point where I thought, do you know what? I enjoy getting up on stage. I like doing these events. If you're going to make a difference in life, you've got to get the confidence. You've got to do it. No matter what other people say, you've got to give it a go. But that's the biggest step, isn't it? The biggest step to actually go, do you know what? I am going to get up on stage. I am going to deliver that information because I'm confident what I'm doing is right.
Exactly. And it's not built overnight. It's something that what's really sad and disappointing for me is I've seen a lot of mediums that when they first started out had such ability that you could see in the long term, if they stuck at it and kept sitting and developing, they were going to be great. And now there's such a number of them that have disappeared because they didn't give it the time to develop. They jumped straight on the platform and started their stuff and crashed and burned because they didn't allow themselves the time to develop.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the other thing as well is, and you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier as well, and me and James know this, how the paranormal and this kind of world is, that you do get people, you mentioned jealousy earlier, which is a massive problem in this field, isn't it? It's a massive problem in this field. And I think we have to kind of break that stereotype. We need to get rid of those people that do that, because all you're doing is you're setting people back on a path they can be really successful at.
Yeah.
That's, I think, one of my biggest problems with this whole thing is I've seen it myself as well. I've seen great potential mediums go on stage. And James is a good example. I met James 15 years ago, very, very quiet guy. And I just knew that actually he could do a good job if we gave him the chance to do it. The people at the time he was around, they wouldn't give him an opportunity. And I went, you know what? I'll do it, because you've got to have that faith and you've got to have the opportunity to do it, no matter what I might say.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I was just going to say, we've got a few more comments as well.
Yep.
Cheryl has thought, well, that's incredible. Thank you for answering my question, Colin.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. Alexandra Chance, she said, Andy set me on my path. I'm resisting so much, Colin. Feels like I'm self-sabotaging.
Oh, you've got to do it.
After that, thank you. I was guided here today, needed to hear this. And we've got another question as well by John. Colin, what experience have you of direct voice trance?
Well, see, direct voice is separate. It's separate from, so you can go in, for me, from my experience, and that's all I can speak about. Direct voice comes from within the room. Now, you might be used to build that energy for that, whether it's in a group setting or on your own, but mainly direct voice for me, I've witnessed in seance conditions.
Okay.
So you're moving into a different area there. Even though the medium of those seance nights will be in a trance state, direct voice comes from within the room. So there's a voice box that gets built with ectoplasmic energy, and the voice is directed from there. So it's separate from, it's away from the person, it's away from the trance medium. It doesn't come directly from the medium. It's a separate thing. That's my understanding of it.
Fantastic. Well, Jimmy Dimitri is watching as well. I says, thanks for all your help, Colin. I love to say that name, Dimitri. Amazing, isn't it?
Jimmy.
Well, did you know
Jimmy,
that? Do you know some of these people, I'm guessing?
Can I just say hello to Jimmy? Because when we were talking earlier about philosophy, now I was just a youngster, and I haven't even started mediumship. And one person I used to follow from church to church around Southampton, particularly, because that's where I was Jim Dimitri, because Jimmy is a dear friend, and he was one of and still is, such a genuine, humble, gifted ambassador who's been working for the spirit world for as long as I can remember. And his philosophy was the thing that, when I said to you about my interest in philosophy, Jim was the fella I used to watch the most, because it was him and the way you just know when someone first introduces themselves, and then when they get connected to the spirit and they give out this philosophy, Jim's personality changes, his facial expression would change. And yet, I don't remember Jim ever doing trance mediumship, but he might have done. But if ever a man had the true potential for it as well, it's Jim. And the stuff that used to come out of that man's mouth was mind blowing, and still is.
I think I might have seen him actually in one of the churches. The name now I mention is, I can't see the picture so much, but it's quite a small profile picture. But now we mention the name, would you kind of recognise the name?
Yeah, he's well known. Jimmy's been here, there, and everywhere, and he's one of the most respected mediums I know. I love him. He's brilliant. He's a great friend to me.
Now, James, Colin, I've got a watch party going on my own Facebook page right now of our videos. So whilst we're live on here, I'm live on my own Facebook too, because you can share it.
Okay.
Julie Coleman has been on my one, got to get out there, you know, saying, love Colin and his work. I missed meditation group with him, had amazing authenticity whilst working with him. What an amazing comment to get.
Who was this?
This is from Julie Coleman. I think I might have met Julie a couple of times actually.
That's from
Oh.
Vivash.
Yes, I believe
Back
so.
in Vivash. Blimey, I haven't heard from her for age, but Jude, yeah, another wonderful lady. That's going back some as well. Cracking. Yeah, the whole
Did you
family
find
actually is wonderful.
in the spiritual church network? Did you find that really helped you enhance your ability?
Absolutely. You know what? The churches are underrated, and it's such a shame that so many are
Close.
closing, just
Yeah.
as Vivash has done again at the minute.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem for me was always about the people that ran them. Not everybody ran the churches for the right reasons. When you've got a good core group that are there
Yeah.
for the church and not for themselves, it all goes smoothly. And then people get involved who want to just be, I want to be the president. And and that's all they want to be. I want to be a name. And the reasons for being in the church are wrong. And it's a shame because those churches have served thousands, literally, of mediums across the country and pushed them forward, given them the opportunity, even as fledglings, beginners,
Yeah.
to, or even just to stand up and speak. They've given all these people the opportunity to do that. And the numbers are dwindling. Again, a lot of it for me, the SNU, the laws, the rules and regulations are destroying the natural growth of
Yeah.
spiritual progression. And so it's a shame. There are still a good few churches around that are doing the good work, but they're getting less and less. A lot more independent churches now are opening up because
Yeah, I've seen
simply
this.
because
Yeah.
the
I've
rules.
got to say, I've got to follow on from you there, Colin. Something I've experienced myself going to several spiritualist churches. It's like when I used to go to Five Ash. Five Ash was very welcoming. It was very laid back, and it was
That's
very easy going. And the atmosphere was amazing.
that's where I
Yet,
met you, James, wasn't it?
yes, it was
This is
indeed.
where you met me as well many years ago.
Yeah, many years, many.
Many years, I know. You said you're feeling old. Same
I
here.
got to say, like what you said for SNU and everything. I'm not no offence against them. I know they do a
No,
good job and whatever else, but some of the places I've been to, it's been so strict. And one of the things I used to find, especially when I was about 20 years old, I would go into these places, and because I was a young person at the time, it was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what's he doing here? And it's almost like no one was really interested, no one wanted to come towards me because I was that young. But of course, like you said, with Five Ash, I know it's closed down at the moment, but it's a shame because it had that atmosphere where no matter who you were, what background, or whatever, you could go in there.
absolutely, absolutely. Beautiful
So I was
little
with you
church.
there, James, wasn't I? When we went to do a leadership platform at one place, we got asked to do it. It was one of the spiritualist churches, and no one was putting their hand up, and we're like, "What's going on?" And we found out afterwards that they were all a very tight knit little cliques going on, and they all agreed that because we were young, they weren't going to put their hands up because they didn't want us to be part of a group as such. And to me, that's just really wrong because that's not what this should be about.
No, no. That was the good thing about Vivash. It was such a mixed community congregation in that church. And I remember when I ran that church and Andy was always there. We had a great committee. Gene Batley, Gene, another Gene. Oh God, I've forgotten the blooming name.
Not the organ
Um,
player, is it?
Andy and all of that. But everybody got on, and that church actually, I was asked to take that over by who's her name? Elaine Bevan, who was the head of the Southern District Council. They were going to shut Vivash back then. That was about 2010. And she said to me,
Right.
Colin, if you don't accept my offer and take over this church and get it going, they're going to shut it. I didn't want to do it. I'd never even thought about ever running a blooming church. But we did. And in its first year, that church was crammed. You remember, James, because you used to go there at the same time. The church was, you couldn't get enough, there wasn't enough room for everybody. We had wheelchairs out in the hallway and everything full of, and it was youngsters, literally kids, teenagers, elderly, such a mixture. And in its first year, that church got Church of the Year.
I
For the
think
whole,
Yeah,
got
I
Church
mean,
of the Year. Brilliant.
we went there. But I went for a while as well, didn't we, James? When
Yeah.
Pete Watson's a very good friend of ours. He took it over, did a fantastic job. But now since leaving, I think it's all kind of got to the point where it's had to close down and whatever else. But there are lots of good ones out there, isn't there? So you can really get to.
Yeah, there's still some great churches around. But I noticed that the attendances have dwindled of late prior to all this upheaval.
Yeah.
The attendances have dwindled of late, but I think there'll be a resurgence. And I think you'll see a lot more independent associations popping up without so much. I mean, I wasn't knocking the SNU as such. What I was trying to say was that they restrict themselves as an organization and are limiting themselves, excuse me,
Yeah.
because I believe more people would attend. Um, and a lot of the older mediums that have been around for a while are just not, they don't want any more of this, the rules and stuff, the restrictions. And so they're moving in different circles, different areas, and it's a shame. The SNU is a good foundation. It's a good foundation. I just think it needs to revisit how it projects itself within the church community and indeed at Stansted as well. But I mean, what can you say?
But for yourself, again, you found the experience of going to these churches useful. And that's a good thing because it
Yeah.
enables people, youngsters, whoever really, don't have to be young, to enhance their skills and get out there and get the experience that they need. So at the moment, then, you're still doing platform. Well, obviously, we're in a lockdown at the moment. Outside of
Yeah.
lockdown, you're still doing platform work and things. You still got a good connection of people you work with and a good support network as well, which is fantastic. What would you say the most difficult thing for you is about being a medium?
Difficult.
Yeah.
I don't.
Like when people start crying and stuff, get a little bit like, ooh, should I tell you this? Or
I'm not into making people cry. You're supposed to
no,
come
I'm not.
cheerful. All right, people do get emotional because, especially new people, if they've got a message on their first visit, totally unexpected, and given the caliber of information from someone they truly and dearly loved, and have had enough proof to tell them that actually, blimey, I always thought he was dead and that was the end of it. And then get the proof to say, actually, do you know what? There's the evidence that he's still alive or she's still alive. And they've gone away with the most definite proof that they were given that they're alive. And that's the most amazing thing to see someone then, and if they cry because of that, is crying out of emotional bliss and
Nice
happiness,
thing,
really, knowing, as opposed to being sad about things. It's that wonder that you get filled with. And people don't realize when you receive a message sat in the audience, that spirit is connecting with you also. And so you get the feeling, a portion of it as well. So you go away uplifted, and you can't buy that sort of feeling.
Yeah, I can imagine it's very rewarding to be able to give people those messages of reassurance in a way, that actually your loved ones have moved on, but they still can communicate with you and give you reassurance that they're okay, but also in some cases, that they're proud of you, whatever the case might be.
Perhaps it's the most rewarding thing ever to be able to get to a point where you can give information that convinces the recipient. Rather, in your early days, it's always a bit hit and miss, and you can't be blamed for that because you're still developing. And we've all given some absolute, well, some terrible. We've had some bad nights, all of us, But it's nice when you can get to the point where you're confident enough to just open your mouth and say, "Look, so and so, blah 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 blah." It's true, and you can see in their face at the end of the message, they know it's true, and to see people go away and then they come up to you afterwards at the end. Oh, thank you so much. That thing about Fred doing this or whatever, it was just so specific. That bit of information on its own has convinced me that he's still alive and he's still around me. And when they go away with that feeling, that makes the whole night well
That's what it's
worthwhile.
about, isn't it? It's about being able to give those messages and give reassurance to people. Well, we've got questions. Cheryl has asked, what has been the most memorable demonstration that you've done, Colin?
Oh my God, Cheryl. I know Cheryl. I know Cheryl from
What a
old.
question.
Blimey, the most memorable. I'd tell you the most enjoyable was not the second one, the first demonstration I did with Mavis Patilla, and she was kind enough to allow me to share the platform with her. And the second time I did it with her, it was a disaster. My nerves were just shot, and I crumbled. But the first one was cracking. It's like she brings some kind of power pack with her, and it was just so easy. It was just so easy. The energy was everywhere with her, and so to work alongside her, it was just the simplest, but and the greatest of nights I've had for a long time, for a long time. And on a trance level, it's only recent, only over the last year or 2 years, where sitting now in doing trance demonstrations. Like I said, it took me ages to get to that point where I was 100% comfortable and relaxed. And so now they are. And the only other night on another level, being in a seance, was seeing Stuart Alexander demonstrate in a seance up in Hull. And the phenomena that I witnessed in that room with Andy, actually, as it happens, in that room that night, Andrew shook the hand, a physical hand that was on its own in the room, attached to nothing.
Wow.
And
I'd love to have seen that.
And when that fellow that asked earlier about direct voice,
Yes.
voice was in the room. The voice was in the room. And Andrew, it said to Andrew, the hand came up off the table, offered itself to Andrew to shake it. So I had to egg him on, go on, shake his blooming hand. So he took the hand, shook it, and then a voice in the room just said, "Son, you've just shaken the hand of a man that died 100 years ago." And in a pure, rich American accent as well. And so, yeah, and besides lots of other bits that occurred that night, that sticks in my mind, and I know it sticks in Andy's. Phenomenal.
That is certainly experience that you'll probably some of us will never have. James, over to you.
Yes, I suppose really, Colin, for those people that's watching at home and thinking to get more into trance, are you still there, Colin? Or I think
the ghosts have got him.
I think we've lost him. Yes.
Once we're here, we're doing a little promo, a little plug. I think we've lost him.
We'll wait for Colin to get back.
Oh, it's definitely gone.
Yes. We'll give it a few minutes. Hopefully, we will be back with us. There you go.
We're nearly at the end anyway, so it's not too bad. We're nearly at the end. Kate just put his reconnection is going to happen pretty soon. Now, whilst Colin is away with the ghosts, let's give you a bit of a heads up as to what's happening on the show over the next few weeks or so. Don't forget, please get behind Supernatural Tours and Events. Join our live page on Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube page. That is so important. But also get behind the Supernatural News as well, which has also got its own website, Facebook, Twitter, all those kind of things, and also a YouTube page. So please do subscribe to those, because your support is so important to us. Now, this Sunday, we're going to be actually having someone on the show from across the pond from the United States. No, it's not someone who's recommending to inject disinfectant. We've got someone sensible who's going to be talking about a very well-known case he has experience with. James, tell us more.
Yes, we are actually referring to the Annabelle doll. Now, of course, our guest is Dan. He's actually worked with Warrens, and of course, he's looked after for Annabelle doll. And there is even a clip on our Facebook page where when they moved the Annabelle doll to its new case, I don't know if I should say pleasure or the task. He, whichever one, he had the chance to move the Annabelle doll out of its original case into its new case. Now, all I'm going to say is, I know some of you may have seen the movie at home. Now, of course, a real Annabelle doll does look very different.
It's like a raggedy doll, isn't it? It's not like the one you see on the movies, which has been made to look very scary.
But of course, it's a very interesting case, and I must admit, as myself, I can't wait to hear the stories and hear what else Dan has got up to.
Colin, I think it's Colin's back, I think. Let's have a look, see if we can get it back on. Whilst we're doing that, don't forget also Corinne Pheasant is going to join us from Jamaica as well to talk about all the ghosts of Jamaica. She works there and does the ghost hunts there. And before we do that, we'll just go back to Colin. He is back and he's just adjusting his camera. Look at that.
Hello, Colin.
Back.
The battery died.
Oh, that's those ghosts in it. They're affecting the battery and stuff.
Just before you went, Colin, I was just going to ask you, for those of people at home, and they're hearing us, of course, talk about trance, what is your advice to them if they wanted to get into this field? What could they do?
What could they do? Well, listen, for me, let me just get my. Don't just go into this on a whim. I mean, fair enough, you could dip your toes in, see what you think of it. I mean, you're never going to know until you try anyway. So I'm not saying don't try it. But if you're going to commit yourself, it's something you need to commit to fully, absolutely fully, because it's not a short progression. Like I've said to you, it's taken me 25 years to find out that I'm finally content with the level. Not that I'm going to stop at this. I still want to develop and whatever, but it's taken me this long on my own to just be comfortable over the last 3 to 4 years with where I am. And it's taken all those years of sit. So
Yeah,
it's not a short-term thing. But if you want to, there should be people round and about. I mean, you don't necessarily need to sit with other trance mediums or in physical groups. You have your intention, you know what you want to sit for and why you're sitting, and you can just sit in twos if you need to. It's not like you need the energy for a seance where you need a lot of people with good, all of that.
Yeah.
You're developing yourself. And so just find a regular time to sit. If there is a group local where someone's got knowledge of it that can help you, fine. Go along.
Yeah, go.
Also, but you don't necessarily need that. You can sit on your own. Obviously, it helps if you've got people about with a bit of knowledge or the facilities, the room, the to sit in the right way, the right energy. And it doesn't take anything more than good intent, really.
Okay. And I've got one more question for you, Colin.
Yeah.
Of course, as you know, me and Andrew is heavily involved in the ghost hunts and supernatural.
Yeah.
Do you ever do trance in a haunted location, or is it something you stay away from?
Do I ever do it in a what location?
A haunted location.
Or haunted?
Haunted, yeah, I think so, yeah.
Somewhere like that.
James, sorry, mate, but you're going to have to say that slowly because the word keeps echoing and distorting. I can't hear.
I think you said, do you ever do trance in a haunted place?
Ah,
Yes.
right. That's what I thought you said. It wouldn't make
kept cutting out.
it wouldn't make any difference to me where I did it because it's all about intent. So you can do it
Okay.
absolutely anywhere. And if you know, which I completely do, know that I'm protected, I have no qualms about negative energies and this and that and all the other stuff. It's not like because that was something I wanted to actually dispel at the beginning when we were talking about witnessing trance mediumship. You are not possessed. You are not going to be gurgling sounds of this, that, and the other,
That's what I was
and
going for.
squirming around or doing chicken
Illusions
dances and
ruined.
all of this. It is the most natural thing when you've got yourself to a place where the spirit can move in on an easy level. Um, it's just the smoothest collaboration, and where it's almost seamless. Where in my teaching of it, and even before demonstration or during a demonstration, at the start of a demonstration now, and this is simply because I asked the spirit, this is what I wanted to do, can you help me? And so I'll be standing up and people will first of all be asking questions about the night, what's going to happen. And so you're explaining, as I've explained tonight, the science and the mechanics. But I like to show them how smooth it can be. And so I have an understanding now between myself and the spirit, vice versa, that at a point just prior to the where the demonstration takes off fully, I explained to the audience, I want to show you how seamless it can be and how undramatic it can be, where there's no need for any dramas or this or that. And so as I'm talking then the spirit bit by bit start putting the energy in and they will show not only by my manner and this and that, where the voice comes in gradual. So, where on occasion, now, if you wanted to just go from standing up and talking and then sitting down, going quiet, and just coming out with a different voice, that different voice could be manipulated so easily. Anyone good at a bit of ventriloquism or voice mimicking?
Very much so.
Yeah.
If you want to do, I could do a bit of scouse now if you wanted, but what my point is, when it can be brought in so gradually and smoothly, you're witnessing the steps and the transformation in the moment, and you can judge quite vividly in that moment how that progression is taking place because it's different to just taking on of my normal voice and then switching it in the moment completely. But you try and get someone to change their voice over seconds continually, but still maintain that focus, that knowledge, that energy, you know? And so this was something I worked on with the spirit, and it's something that I do now where you don't have to be convinced, you will see and hear in the moment gradually. And for me, that's the best way. And I love the way that they allow me to do that and the way that they work with me to do that because I think it's important. And I've had a lot of good comments after, in as much as people say it was good to see it in that manner because you can see and feel the progression of the thing instead of sit down
Absolutely.
and come out with a different voice kind of thing.
So if you think you're going to go and see scenes from The Exorcist, you're massively mistaken, everyone. But who knows?
Yeah, that's not happening.
Let me see kind of round things off. It's been a really, really interesting evening.
Yes,
Thank
Colin, do you have any links for us or how can people get in contact with you?
I'm on Facebook, Colin Flaherty, Spirit Medium. I've also got a trance page, Colin Flaherty Trance Medium. So I'm accessible on there. I do readings and stuff. Obviously, at the minute, readings are limited to Skype, WhatsApp, that kind of thing at the minute. And I'm not as enamored with that kind of reading, as I like to be face to face in the room. But however, it's worked. So if people want to be in touch, well, for whatever, and even if they want some understanding of things, I mean, we've had occasions where we've gone round to people's houses free of charge, I might add, not one of these I'll clear your house for 200 quid lark. If you've had things going on in your house or you felt things or whatever, we will just come round and just feel the energy and just see what's what. 9 times out of 10, it's just someone from your family that's trying to get through to you. They're still alive, and it's quite simple and basic. No evil spirits, no negative this, no negative that. Your house doesn't need clearing. You just need to understand what it is that's there. So yeah, all different types of things. Anything you would like to know. If I've got the knowledge that you seek, I'll give it to you. And if I haven't, I'll try and point you to someone else that has.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for this evening. It's been absolutely brilliant. James, you're going to finish up saying thanks, and I think I'm passing over to him.
I was going to say a big thank you to everyone at home watching, and of course getting involved and asking questions. Big thank you to you, Andrew, and of course a big thank you to you, Colin, for joining us. It's been very interesting. I found it quite fascinating, I must admit, and hopefully, from those of you that are watching at home, please join us again. And of course, like Colin's pages, like the Supernatural News and Supernatural Tours and Events, and hopefully we'll see you again soon for another Supernatural Live.
And can I just say before you go,
yes,
I'd like to say thank you to everyone, especially to all those old familiar names, Julie, Cheryl, Jimmy. I know Mark Stone is on there watching. So actually, anyone down the Bournemouth end, Mark Stone, fantastic trance medium. And well, he's just got so much knowledge and ability. It's just like off the scale. So anybody down that neck of the woods who would like to maybe learn or get some more information on trance mediumship and how to sit, Mark Stone, he's your boy down there as well. So there. So thank you to you two lads and to everybody.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
No, big thanks to everybody. I think this is what it's about, is bringing everybody together in such difficult times. So very much appreciated. I hope everybody takes care and stays safe, and make sure, as we always say, to stay with the lockdown guidance from the government and NHS. And we'll see you. Actually, we're back on Thursday. No, when are we back? Sunday.
Sunday, we are indeed.
Sunday. Who have we got Sunday?
Yes, we've got Dan from America talking about the Annabelle doll. So
next Thursday, it went so well with the quiz. We're doing it again on Thursday, and on Friday we've got another guest, and the following Sunday as well. So please keep on the live pages to find out. Until then, have a great night, everybody. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.